The torpedoes currently in use, particularly by the U.S. Navy, are obsolete. Torpedoes should actually attack upwards from underneath at a ship and not from the traditional horizontal position. By traveling in deeper water, the torpedo can essentially look up at the ship and scan the surface for ship hulls. You can't really hide a ship hull. It is a large, dark object. There is a significant difference in the amount of light traveling through the water, which clearly identifies the ship hull, which can't really be hid. Also, by attacking upwards from underneath, you're more likely to hit vital spaces and to do significant damage to the ship. This requires a different design of torpedo. The torpedo needs to be able to look upwards to scan, and then when it turns over, to have that scanning system shift forward, rising up out of the top of the torpedo to look forward for the terminal attack phase. There's a fish called a barrel eyes that has eyes that does this similarly. The scanning system can be either a low light system actually detecting passive light, or it can be a laser scanning. This allows for a much more effective torpedo. The torpedo would have to have winglets, which would be encased in a streamlining shroud. The shroud would separate, the winglets would open up. This would allow the force necessary to have the torpedo make a turn through the water. Additionally, a torpedo is just about neutrally buoyant. It's usually slightly negative. So the amount of net lift you need is limited. In order to accomplish this additional lift, a rocket motor could be placed in the propeller drive shaft, or alternatively, a slightly larger motor could be used to enable it to drive upward against the slight amount of weight that is not compensated for by buoyancy. In addition, there is a requirement for thrust to overcome the additional drag from the lift produced by the winglets as the torpedo turns. This also enables acoustic decoys to be defeated. The torpedo will have the acoustic detection system on the front of the torpedo to get it close to where the ship is. But when it gets closer for the terminal attack, it would use an optical system. No form of acoustic spoofing would in fact confuse the torpedo. For shallower water attacks, the torpedo would deliberately broach the surface, or porpoise. It would come out of the water, look for the ship, scan with a laser, and drive back into the water. If the torpedo does this at a half mile, about 800 meters, the shells from any kind of anti-aircraft weapon fired at it, it would take about 1 second for the shells to arrive. In addition, the gun has to be slewed into position, requiring additional time. The torpedo would rise up, it would dive back into the water before the shells arrive, protecting it from anti-aircraft weapons. By coming out of the water, it can clearly see the ship hull. If there was an acoustic decoy, that wouldn't affect the torpedo, and the torpedo could make a clean attack. In order to do this, the torpedo would have to scan upward looking for wave height. If there were significantly large waves, the torpedo would have to come at a sharper angle and come further up out of the water to clear the top of the wave before looking for the ship. But the waves, again, would both mask the radar signature of the torpedo when it's out of the water and also protect it against incoming shell fire as it comes down again into the water.